Yo, 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 welcome to Crate 808, and today we have on a very special guest, writer, DJ, blog era OG, and co-founder of indie label Closed Sessions, all the way from Chicago. We've got DJ RTC Alexander Fruchter in the house. How are you doing, man?
I'm great, man. Thank you. Killed it. You got it right. Thank you so much.
That name, it's a little bit of a yeah. I got you though. I got you. So,
you got me.
But bro, thank you for coming on. I know we've been talking quite a bit just generally, and I thought I'd love to chop it up about 90s classics, 90s albums, and we were just discussing stuff, and we thought today we're going to chop it up over 1998's Mos Def and Talib Kweli, a Black Star album. Like, yeah, that I am ready for. I'm ready for this chat. I was thinking that I'm kind of born for this chat. I think this is the album that kind of changed a lot of my thinking. But before we go in, I have to ask you what I ask everyone. Alexander, man, what is the least hip hop thing you've done in the last 24 hours?
Man, definitely packed up a baby, and with my wife and dog, we drove to the very non-hip hop small lake town of Brooklyn, Michigan.
All right.
Listening to the Lullabies playlist, including hits like Puff the Magic Dragon.
Nice.
Some good Tom Petty in there too. A lot of Louis Armstrong. So yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Damn, that's interesting. Surely now there must be hip hop lullaby like instrumentals somewhere. So come on, man, it's 2021. People need to be. There must be some of those out there somewhere.
That's true. I just have the first 4 songs. If he's not asleep by then, it's tough. It's tough. So I just listen to the first 4.
Okay, fair. I like that. Yo, quick reminder, if you're enjoying the show, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button so you'll be kept up to date with all that we're doing. And also, man, get involved in the YouTube comments. Man, we love hearing from you fellow hip-hop heads. We love nerding out, so bring those takes and just bring that flavour, man, and we might even shout you out on the show. So yes, appreciate all the support. Now, back to the episode. So about this album then, I mean, renowned. I think a lot of the listenership are going to know this album probably inside out, like yourself. And I wanted to first kick off, really. I'm guessing you've been listening back to it a little bit before we chatted. How are you feeling about it now? Now you've listened back to it, I don't know how long it's been since you last did, but how are you with this album now?
Yeah, man. I listen to this regularly, at least a couple times a year, but in prepping for this, I've probably listened to it, over 10 times in the last couple of days. I think the thing I feel most about it now that I've never felt before is, like many fans, maybe yourself, it's always been, when is the next Black Star album? When is the next Black Star album? And in listening to it and really hearing it in new ways, I'm actually glad. I don't think there could be another album. I don't think that, I don't know what else they would say. This is so well done conceptually, where they were, where hip hop was. Maybe it's best, let's just leave this be the Black Star album, still do songs. I'd love to see them both in concert continually. But yeah, that's where my newest thing is. I just don't know where else they could take it. This is the statement.
Yeah. And it is a statement. That's exactly what it is. That's interesting when you say it that way, because I'm like, everyone talks about Madlib. He's going to do the next one. It's supposed to be all Madlib beats. And I was like, I don't know what the name is going to be or whatever, but it'd be good if they don't just sequel it. Don't sequelize it. Don't do any of that. If it's another Black Star project, absolutely here for that. But you're right. This is kind of an album that, you said there, you don't know what else they could say. They cram so much in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even to 4 or 5 bars where you're like, right, I didn't even have Google back then. How did I know any of this? And it's just fascinating. To give that bit of context then for this album generally, but also tie it in for yourself, which is where were you when this album, you found this album, or the artists, did you hear them before, earlier? Where were you at with it before?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, so like you said, I grew up in Chicago. The part of Chicago I'm from is called Hyde Park, which is on the south side, right, very close to the University of Chicago. Chicago is a very segregated city, but Hyde Park is one of the few neighborhoods that has just a mix of everybody. The university also draws a lot of international students, Black, white, Latin, everything is kind of there. And there were people that moved from New York that would say it reminded them of New York the most out of all the Chicago neighborhoods. So growing up there, I remember listening to this album and similar ones out looking outside the window, my parents' apartment window. And this album, the sounds, it just sounded like what outside looked like. Like it just reminded me of my neighborhood. And I found it at a time, I think I was 15 or 16 when this came out. So just starting to really form my own identity, music, starting to understand things, seeing hip hop all around. Common is from this area. Like a lot of Chicago hip hop happened around where I grew up. So I was just like seeing it like, yeah, this makes more sense than necessarily what I was seeing on MTV. And that's kind of how I came to find it. And there was a key moment. There was a record store called Dr. Wax that I started going to just almost every day after school. I'll just walk over there a couple blocks from my apartment. And I went there. My brother's 8 years older than me. So he's like, I probably was 14. He was, I guess, 22 back from college. Yeah. And they would have bootlegs. And they had this is going to sound odd, but they had this Oasis bootleg. Right. And at that time, I loved the band Oasis. It was called the B-Side Experience. And it was like $30. And I was like, man, can you just buy this for me? Because I'm in 8th grade. I don't have any money. Yeah. And he's like, all right, cool. But you're going to have to trade me CDs. And then this is, I don't know if they had in England, Columbia House, where you could order like 10 CDs for a penny type thing.
I've heard a lot of people talk about this scam where it's just basically you're just getting tons and tons of records for nothing.
I'd order 15 CDs for a penny. They'd send a bill to my mom. She would call them like, how would you let a 12-year-old like sign up for this and get like not have to pay? I did that several times. Yeah. And one of the CDs I got, this is a long story, but one of the CDs I got earlier was Ill Communication. When we got back from the record store, my brother wanted Ill Communication in a trade for this Oasis bootleg. Right. And I'm like very, like I said, just coming into my own. And I'm like, let me listen to this Beastie Boys CD one more time. And I put it on. And then it was older now. I got it even younger because of Sabotage. And I heard it again. I'm like, oh, the light bulb went off. And then I heard Get It Together with Q-Tip. And then I went deep into Tribe Called Quest. And then Tribe Called Quest had on the Love Movement, one of the last songs, like features Talib Kweli, Mos Def, I think is on there. Wordsworth is on there. And then Lyricist Lounge. And I just got, boom, this is what I want, not just what's on the radio. In a larger context, they came out, and I think a big part of the album is them being the counterpoint to what Bad Boy and Diddy was doing. That's explicitly said on the project. But that's where I was in my life, just starting high school really, and like, man, it was just, now it really helped take rap or hip hop from something I saw on TV to being like, oh, I've been seeing all these things happening around me. Yeah. And now here's the representation of it on MTV, on bigger stages where it's like not just at my record store, not just over here. Like there were many rappers and artists, bands that were on TV, and you thought, damn, they're famous, they're rich. Like I could not get that. And I think with Black Star, the way they were doing it, it just showed the way they were dressed, all the shit they were doing. It was like, oh, my friends and I can do this. Like it wasn't this far off thing. It's like, all right, we can participate in it, and I can get deeper into it as we go. I'm sorry I rambled on there, but that's where I was when I found the project. And then last thing I'll say, just the political, social things they're talking about. Again, I could see those in just happening in real life, but I didn't know the words or the terms. And I think that this definitely, then when I get to high school and then listen to this a lot in college, it's just like, oh yeah. And then seeing what I'm seeing, it's just like, yeah, this makes sense. So that's where I was when I kind of discovered Black Star, and then the whole larger Rawkus and underground hip hop and everything. It was my jump into all of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yo, yo, yo. Us here at the Crate 808 podcast have finally kicked off our Patreon. So if you don't know what Patreon is, it's a platform where you can go and for a small donation, you can help support us make more hip hop content for you. Go on to patreon.com/Crate 808 and you can check out all the little payment options you've got there. You can check out the 2 new episodes you'll be getting every month, live chats with us guys, just to rap nerd out with you guys. We're going to go into some wide-ranging episodes delving into the work of the Wu-Tang Clan, MF Doom and Jay Dilla, so get it locked if you want that new granular look at hip-hop. So go to our payment tiers on Patreon, big up yourselves. If you choose to support us, thank you so much. I will give you a personalised shout out on the show and we shall catch you in one of these live rooms and let's get this community going. So spread the word, much love for your time and peace out. Boom. Just to track back a little bit then, because I do want to go into the album, but you were saying there you were trading with your brother's CDs, yeah? So what was the hardest trade where you were like, I don't want to let this go? Do you remember one where you were like, I don't want to let this go, but what did you get in return? I'm just fascinated by that.
Yeah. What did I get in return? I remember trading, which I probably wouldn't have done now. I remember trading a Jimi Hendrix blues album that I just didn't understand. I was probably 11.
Yeah.
I just didn't. I was like, when you just start hearing of artists, but new kids won't know this, but you go to the CD store and you don't understand the concepts of different albums, So I just grabbed a Jimi Hendrix thinking, let's go. Cause Wayne's World had came out and they had it featured heavily, but I traded that for, I think maybe License to Ill. That was a great trade.
That was a huge trade.
That was a huge one. Well, depending what side you're on of it. Jimi Hendrix still was a big loss, but
yes.
He gave me Black Sunday, which was a huge come up. I forgot what I traded for that. He took it.
A classic. You got a classic right there.
His ex-girlfriend left it at his house. He just never gave it back. And then I ended up being able to get it.
Of a broken relationship, the Phoenix rose, and it was you listening to Black Sunday. Wow.
Big come up. And but that like last trade for that Oasis, he wanted Ill Communication. And that's where I was like I said, the light bulb went off. I think it came out, that song came out, the album came out when I was in like 6th grade and everyone loved Sabotage. Yeah. And again, I didn't fully understand, but by 7th and 8th, even a year, you grow so much just from like 11 to 12 or 12 to 13. Yeah. So when I listened to it again, like 13 is like, oh, now I fucking get it. Yeah. Like this is what I'm like talking about. Yeah. I could not give it up. And I don't even know. I might have just taken that, and I kept the Oasis CD too. I love that album. So I don't know. I might have gotten away with no trade.
Yeah, it's a great history, man. That's a great history. I love that. I love those little things that kind of impact your just history, like getting into music, because that means a lot, right? So that path was beautiful, man. Brilliant. And then I was just going to say, basically, I know that first of all, I know that this is Black Star. Marcus Garvey, a lot of knowledge of self, knowledge of self, a lot of that ethos in this. But and I also know it's on a label like Rawkus, which over here, I don't know if it was wrongfully stigmatized like that, but like it was a very white label, as in like, and now there's this podcast here, and we're not black people talking about this this amazing like education. So I'm fascinated to know where Rawkus stood for you in that kind of ethos, in that mentality, in your political standing at that young age. Where were they at for you?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you hit so many things. I do think like this is an album that I would almost say if you're a white hip hop fan, or maybe, not a black person listening to hip hop, this almost would be a required listening of an album just because of everything they're talking about. And like I said, that's what was so fascinating to me. And I think what drew me to the album is like, they talk a lot. I don't know if either of them ascribe to the 5% Nation, but there's a lot of teachings in there dropped throughout the project that I had, again, Hyde Park, I remember hearing about those and hearing them, but I didn't really understand what it was. So this album was a further education of how to be more of a global citizen for myself. And put in Rawkus, that's an interesting point. Yeah, definitely run by 2 white guys. I don't think I at that time even had like even had an idea of label owner. It was like I
Yeah.
saw the razor blade
Yeah.
on vinyl, and I just thought like so many of the artists I had too were new. It was like I've never heard of this, but I love that logo looks
Oh
ridiculous,
man, that
and
logo.
it's gonna be a quality thing. And I'd heard the song he did with Q-Tip and Tash on the Lyricist Lounge album. Well, I don't know why I'm spacing on the name of that song. Shit. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know the Lewis Lounge. I'm awful with track names, but I know most is on there. And yes, he was with Tash. Yeah.
It was Q-Tip, Tash, Body Rock. Want to stop the body rock, but don't do it.
Yeah. So
that was sick. But I just saw Rawkus as, man, I thought it was a breath of fresh air. I thought it was really cool. I was really drawn to, and I think what we modeled Closed Sessions a bit, and it's really inspired me to do a lot, was like the community. They have a song on here where they like call out everyone in the that's in the jam. It's like a throwback to the old park jams, and they like, where we got the Rawkus family, Shabam Sadiq, Company Flow. Blah. They're like name. I was just like, damn, this shit is awesome. This is like what it should be. And then like my friends and I were like, yeah, we're gonna do this. And so I never got into it till later, where I didn't even think about like who owns this label. But yeah, now looking back, I could see that. And yeah, it's an interesting dichotomy. And some of the artists on Rawkus have talked a little bit about it, but I think at this point now, most people view it in a favorable light. I think what was also weird is it wasn't one of their parents like really rich or like part of
it's part of the Murdoch family, James Murdoch.
There you go.
And
that's weird.
It's that way you think. What was it now? Where I was actually reading something on this, and they absolutely nailed it. I think it might be Spin. Someone nailed it where they were like, "Oh, it's basically akin to watching Succession." I don't know if you watch Succession, and Kendall being James Murdoch, and you're like, "Oh my god, yeah, Kendall like kind of affected all of my like latter teenage going into 20 years where I was just so backpacker and I was just so that, you know, and that community you were saying there, that ethos, it felt like a world. And to know that the Murdoch family had some dealing in it is just really odd. It's just really odd to me because I never thought that. I never knew that at the time. And it was years later when I was like, what? Rupert Murdoch's son? What the fuck? Yeah.
It's crazy. You know, but it's like people could, we could talk so much about what is really happening and like, why are these people making money with these artists? But at the end of the day, unless they did some super foul shit, man, it was worth it to get this album, to get like, I mean, so man, you take Rawkus out or take these two dudes, like let's say you never started Rawkus, man, hip hop would be. Look at so many people and artists that were inspired by this album that went on to make music, and like there's a whole renaissance of hip hop right now that can be traced even back, not just this, but part of that whole Rawkus movement. But I would love someone to shoot a documentary or learn, tell the Rawkus story. I had a friend signed to Rawkus actually briefly. I don't know if you've heard of the group Kids in the Hall. They were big. So knowledge from Kids in the Hall, we grew up together and played baseball together and stuff. And then when he signed to Rawkus later, like when they tried to do their reemerge, and Kids in the Hall were like the flagship group. It was them and the Percussions and someone else. I just thought that was the coolest shit in the world, man. Like you're on the same label as Mos Def and Talib Kweli. These people that inspired you to rap, like that's pretty dope.
Yeah, absolutely. And there needs to be a documentation of this just because I feel like a time capsule, this is it. It's a moment that not only is burgeoning of like a community and a whole mentality of rap fans, but it's a mirror. It's like you said earlier, it's an absolute reflection and opposite view of what was happening in the mainstream. But then I do think there's as history goes on and we all get older and like things get solidified and polarized and crystallized into like the binary things, I think it's very easy to say it was shiny suit and backpacker because at the end of the day, there was West Coast scene was unreal. There was like DMX doing his own thing, Cool Keith's out doing his thing, Doom's not far away from this, Outkast are doing their thing, Gangstar are still around. At that time, absolutely, New York rap, shiny rap, and Rawkus, definitely. But I think there was so much going on in the universe. I don't want it to get people twisted where they're like, oh, so just these two things. It was like, no, there was so much going on. But I think this label, just to cap off my point, you were saying there, like how influential it was. What I found really interesting is the artists I loved, Pharaoh, Talib, Mos, my love affair with Mos came from this. And I was like, they may not have hit A-list celebrity status, but they definitely weren't underground. So they almost lifted this underground scene to when you're seeing him on the Chappelle show. And that's like
that was a moment.
Yeah, that's a hit show. And now they're doing a podcast together, and you're like, this isn't just underground. They lifted beyond that into, like, now you see Talib doing what he's doing, and Mos doing what he's doing, and it's crazy. But no, absolutely.
Look at you, like they have a saying, I like that we use this saying at our label, rising tide lifts all boats. And they came in and lifted so many other boats. Even if you fast forward now, like look at Run the Jewels and LP, you mentioned all these other things. And, you know, I think almost you could trace back like how Kanye West beat 50 Cent and that set a whole trajectory. I just think still without Rawkus, who the rumor is they passed on Kanye, he really wanted to be on Rawkus and they fucked that up. But I just think you can't, like, you remove this and who knows if you have these other things. But that you hit on the head, man. It wasn't like they weren't totally underground, but it was they introduced or solidified or put the quotes on, this was the underground aesthetic. When underground really became a genre and not just standing for not known, it's like, at least for me, and I think like we're probably around the same, it's just for a generation, it's like when you think of underground, it's kind of like this is the aesthetic. Or if someone to me says this is an underground rapper, I don't think, oh, this dude's not known. It could be the biggest artist, but it's like, this is the style I'm expecting to hear. And you says, well, there was so much going on. It is interesting that these dudes kind of came to, and then they rejected that, where they came to stand for the whole movement, and they kind of didn't want to be. They didn't want to. Later on, they didn't want to be pigeonholed and rejected that title a little bit too.
Absolutely. I found a quote, by the way, that absolutely summed up this kind of middle ground from like taking a whole scene, not being underground, but trying to make it, lift it, like you said. And it was Stereo Gum, and someone on there, I think it was Tom Bryan, I can't remember who it was, someone had written it, and he just brilliantly compares it to Sub Pop. And no one's ever done that for me. And I was like, oh yes, of course. Sub Pop took a scene of independent artists, lifted them, and then obviously Nirvana happened. But it's like, it's interesting that, you know, this could be seen like that a little bit as well. But yeah, so basically I need to dive into the album with you though, right? So we have most rewindable moments. So I just want to hear from you, if you're listening back, has there been a moment, like a little snippet or a song or a line or anything like that still hits home?
Yeah, man. I mean, there are just so many. Like when you first sent me this list, I filled it out like real fast, thinking like, yep, this is the thing. And then as I kept listening, it's like, wait. But if I had to narrow it down to one, and there are a lot, I think the song Thieves in the Night is one that you have to keep rewinding because of such slick wordplay, the way they bring in the Toni Morrison poem. And when they get going back and forth, and then Mos Def's verse, you just gotta like, that's like a classic verse too, in his phrasing, the way he uses rhyme, like that's just what we would come to know as when he's in the zone. Like that is the shit that he's doing, talking about like the clever Jedi mind trick and that they've been running, you know, like he's talking about the Screaming Brand New, they just sanitized the old shit. Like he was just went off. And then when you really start thinking about the like, you know, this is what comes from that poem, like not free, we're only licensed, not you know, strong, only aggressive, and all that. Then they like flip it into the music industry. It's an incredible record. So that's like the most where you just have to keep rewinding and catch everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's so true. I remember there was one line on there, and he just spoke unlike anyone I'd heard. It's the way his voice is, the way he sings stuff. It's the way he would just go off on one and just absolutely murder the mic at times in his career. And there's one bit where he talks about he finds it distressing. There's never no in between.
Yeah.
You know, you're either bitches or queens, and
Queens,
that. As a kid, I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I've never heard that. You know, it's just, oh yeah, so good.
That's great. Yeah, so good.
Yeah, so good. And 88 Keys, obviously, on that. You know what else I love about where we are right now as a culture, especially talking to someone like yourself who's been in it for so long, and blog era and you're in it. You know, you're working in it. What I find amazing in today's world is you have live documentation of how Thieves in the Night was made. And he's on the Talib podcast and he's talking there. And I was like, just halfway through, I was like, oh my God. Like, I don't know if rock fans ever had this. I don't know if punk fans ever had this. Like, I'm not sure the layman hip hop head is going to know what Thieves in the Night is. I don't know. Maybe they do, but I think definition, redefinition are the two that they may. But I was like, isn't it beautiful, man, that I get to listen to how Thieves in the Night was made, and it's not even like it's an album cut that you and me will know, but I'm not sure if like my friends would cite it. Yeah, I just had to say, like, it's just a beautiful time to live when you can see that now, man. It's just beautiful, man. But yeah, absolutely, Thieves in the Night. Where do you stand on? Okay, I was going to ask this later, but I'm going to ask it now because you talked about how good Mos is. Who's your favourite out of the two on this record?
Oh, on this record, I think this. Oh, the album, you mean, not this song?
Yeah. The whole album. Yeah, sorry.
The whole album, man. You know, that's so tough.
I'm sorry.
That's tough because I think it's me personally. It's Mos Def, but I think also that was one of the other things that I understood. And I remember when this came out, I mean, there were like heated arguments about Mos versus Talib, and people were like, it was a passionate crowd. I had a friend who just was die hard. Talib Kweli is like the one on this.
Yeah.
I always liked Mos Def a bit more. I just thought he like had a bit of a smoother flow, and like he says in one of the songs, I display my strengths without effort, and that's like defining Mos's. Just he's like the effortless cool dude. Like he's the way he speaks, his rap style, just him, the tall, lanky, just like cool guy. But Talib Kweli, man, maybe only Mos Def could have beat him here. Like it's not like he's fucking ridiculous too, man. Like I do think his solo record is better than Mos Def's Mos Def's, and I'm only calling Mos Def because that was the name of the album. I don't want to be disrespectful, like Yasin Bey. But man, Knowledge of Self was a great song. Talib Kweli has a lot of bars. He said in one of the records, at what point, I think it's Knowledge of Self, at what point do you start to realize that life without knowledge is death in disguise? When I was teaching, I taught 5th grade in Chicago public schools, and that was one of the like phrases of our classroom, like knowledge, life without knowledge is death in disguise. And I remember I was telling you my friend Cy in Rawkus, he came and visited my class, and one of my 5th graders raised his hand. He was like, yes, I'd like to ask you a question. Talib Kweli once said, life without knowledge is death in disguise. What do you think about it? I was so proud.
Wow.
I was like,
Wow. That is beautiful. You're spreading the word, my friend. The kids know. That kid's going to take it into his life. That's amazing. Yeah, I'm kind of lost for words for that. That's amazing. But yeah, that's what I mean. And I think that is the only track where he's on his own, right? Knowledge of Self, and I think most might be on a little bit. But yeah, no, that again, it's really interesting how they split this up. It's such a breeze of an album to listen to. My rewindable moment, though, I was struggling in my head, but again, it's so much bias goes into this because, again, when I'd heard this, I fell in love with Mos, and then Mos was in my top 3 for about 10 years, probably. And I would argue furiously about True Magic, I loved True Magic.
Like that one?
I love. People hate it. People hate it, and I'm like, how can you Fake Bonanza and all that? Anyway, either way,
I think. Well, we won't spend time on this, but I think people hate it. Me personally, I don't like it because of how it came out. Like, just one day it was here. I bought that at the record store. There, it's just in a clear plastic.
Yeah,
like,
it was just clear. Yeah.
But sorry, go ahead, man.
No.
You picked Mos as well. When you ask me who shined better, then you can tell me your rewindable moment. Are you going with Mos as well?
Yeah, I think Mos, because it took me a minute. I knew Talib was furious on it, but what the thing I couldn't figure is why he was trying to fit so many words into a line that didn't need that. And I was like, what are you doing that for? And after a while, you realise there's a kind of skill to it all. And like you said, you know, I'm more Black on Both Sides more than Talib's solo. So I'm that end. But I think it just became this thing with Mos where he was like an artist more than Talib for me. An artist, as in like acting, doing all that. Whereas Talib's the activist. And it was like the artist and the activist. Right. Yeah, and that way they worked was beautiful, because there's that bluntness of like Talib just going to chop your head off, and there's that suaveness, that charisma to just beautiful to see them both together like that, man. Absolutely. But my rewindable moment I was going to say was, I was struggling and thinking, I'm trying to think of my favorite transitions in hip hop records, and definition to redefinition, even though it's supposed to be one track, I get it, it's supposed to be one big track, but that transition, bro, every time
it's nuts. That's nuts. That's what's like the genius of the whole album. That's why I said, like, what would a Black Star 2, which I forgot, they'd been announcing it so long, I forgot there's a Mad Lib thing, so I don't want anyone to misconstrue. I want to hear that. We'll buy it as soon as it comes out, like, I'm ready. But if it never came out, man, we have this. What else are they going to be able to execute? That was ridiculous. They do this definition, a song about, like, so, I mean, that's the whole thing to unpack. And then they show the other, it's more hip hop. Like, we're here, the hip hop purists, we're on the rooftop with the Zulu Gestapo. And the chorus, though, upbeat, but very dark. It talks about, like, Tupac and Biggie being killed and hip hop's dangerous. And then the hold your head while the beat drops, boom, very dark beat. And the first line, redefinition, turning your play into a tragedy. They just took the whole song and just like threw it in the dumpster. Boom. Now we're talking about this other shit. Crazy, man. You killed it. Crazy.
Yeah. The way you just said that, I've got goosebumps right now, bro. I need to put this on right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, because it wasn't just the element of, look how many layers they are. What you just said, that first line, play to a tragedy, darker beat, bang. But then on top of it, it's when it's live. When I don't know if you've ever seen them do it live, or just seen that video that goes around every now and again. You see doing the redefinition, and I think it's Respiration and other stuff on there. And it's like, you can just see. And I remember one of my favorite gigs of all time, and I know listeners know this because I bang on about it all the time, but it was, we forsaked, I think we were about 19, 20, so I'm young enough to maybe forgive myself, but we forsaked seeing James Brown live because there was a Rawkus tent, and the Rawkus tent had like Last Emperor was there, and then like Pharaoh was there, Talib was there, Mos was there, and then they all came on the stage at the end together. And they were doing redefinitions, Simon Says, all together. And I remember just sweat coming off the tent. And I was like, this is my favourite gig I've ever been to, ever. And that song, that switch, everything about it, the hook, it just became one of them moments where it's like an anthem. It became an anthem, I suppose. So, yeah, absolutely, man. That's where I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Have you rewatched the video, by the way, too?
I haven't rewatched it in this prep, but I saw it. I think I last saw it we'll just randomly watch it, but the video is crazy too. The colors, the shots, like them driving around in the van, picking up high tech. Like, I forgot. Then there's like isn't there a skit in there where it's like, no, he's high tech. No, he's something like that. I
rewatched it again because again, it's one of the videos. It was on heavy rotation. I have to say, like, people who don't know that video was on, like, here we could see it a lot. And I remember, again, the juice of Rawkus, I suppose, at that time. But that video, when he pauses it and he says, at first I thought it was fake, but I gather it's real. And the cop's like, are you deaf? And he says, no. I'm not deaf. He's deaf.
Yeah.
That's high
Yeah.
tech.
That's what it is. Yeah. That's wild. That's crazy.
It just shows the balls of these guys and just the instant humor and charisma of all of them. And yeah, just absolutely brilliant. And you know what else is brilliant in that video? And I remember I loved it, and that honestly worth a rewatch for people. It's like Mos knows the power of the image. Clearly, you know, he's thinking of imagery, visuals, all that. And he's rapping and he starts taking a sip of water as the rap goes on, drinks it, gulps it down, comes back, joins the rap, and that water break is just like, yeah, I don't know something about it. I just yeah, them little flourishes I love.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so again, we have hottest bars. You talked about a few there. Did you have any others in your pocket that you were like, you know, moments where you're like, yeah, that bar just sticks with me?
Yeah. So I have the hottest bars, and then I also have the moment that is near perfection. Different things, but hottest bars. I have a couple lines, but then I did want to hit a couplet here.
That's
like good. Some of the like one cool line that I think is not talked about, or it's just in another just album cut. I think it's in Hater Players, where he's like, I'm asking, it's Respiration. I'm asking if y'all feel me, and the crowd left me stranded. And then the next line is my blood pressure boiled and rose. New York acting spoiled at shows, and I could just picture him getting fucking mad, like where like I could see him be like, my blood pressure boiled and rose. Whoever has talked about their blood pressure? He's fucking angry. I thought that was awesome. That's like just a hidden gem in there, like where Talib goes off in a subtle way. Another famous bar that I repeat, give me the fortune, keep the fame. That's how he starts in Thieves in the Night.
Thieves in the Night,
but Mos Def on Thieves in the Night too. I think a quotable I see a lot, or when it came out was like repeated, was he's like, I can give a damn if any fan recall my legacy. I'm trying to live life in the sight of God's memory. That right there puts Mos Def in your top 3 of rappers. That's dope.
Yeah.
But my favorite, when I was thinking about it, is when he's on Definition and his last part was like, still sipping wishing well water imported from Pluto. That whole group where he's like our cipher will complete us as we come through your receivers. You can play us and repeat us, then take us home and read us.
Oh my God. Oh my days. My days. That bar is in an anthemic, like, Get Rowdy, Ruckus, Thugged Out track. Like, come on, man. Come on. Yeah. This is crazy. Yeah. And again, he did it again and again. Like both of them did. And just absolutely crazy. I think what you kind of nailed all the bits I was going to say. That I think I remember always, it's the little moments with Mos that get me. Like, I know on Oh No, where he was like, I'll pour your pride on the rocks and make you swallow it all. Though that visual kind of thing, I remember just there's little moments where he just hits home where he's like, "You talk about me to your grandsons," and it's that whole moment. I remember that it just hits you with the chest where you're like, he's not said anything like amazing, but it's just like,
what's he say? Leave your party trembling like herds of moving elephants. That's great. That's so funny. You get like, I don't know if it's party, like leave some like, wow. A herd of moving elephants will make you tremble. Like
Absolutely.
Involuntarily too. Involuntarily.
Exactly, man. But yeah, no, I love that, man. I love that. And I know we were going to talk about moments of near perfection, 5 mic moments that we have. Did you have any 5 mic moments where you were like, that is just,
man, you know what I wanted to talk about with this? There are so many, but this is kind of something you started on where I forgot what you said about the project. Oh, you said it's a breeze. It's a breeze to listen to. So I looked at it as almost like they're different chapters of the album. The first 3, I think, is that near perfection moment, or you could include the intro. So the first 4 tracks, the first being the intro. I mean, this album starts with, we have a responsibility to shine light into the darkness. So they're already saying exactly what this is going to be about. The last voice you hear before it goes into the first song, the sample goes, the statement that they make will determine what everybody else plays very shortly. So it's like, okay, that happened. And then the first song, Astronomy, Eighth Light, where they just introduce exactly what is the black star? Is it the cat with the black shades, the black car, like shining from very far to where you are? Is it like, so they just play off that. And in that, what you said too, they pack so much. That one song is about hip hop, music industry, black empowerment, 5% principles, like all kind of shit, all kind of shit where he goes, blacker than my granddaddy's armchair, but he never got no time to chill there. Another where they have those they say these subtle things, black like the perception of who on welfare. Those kind of things are crazy. And I think that then going into definition and then into redefinition, close that whole exactly who they are, what they're about to do, what they stand for. And that's like a flawless introduction to, you might know Mos Def, you might know Talib Kweli, you might know Rawkus, you might hate or be not hate, but be like dissatisfied with what has turned into, because the corporatization of music was happening at that time, not just in hip hop, but like all these major labels are buying up the smaller ones, and you have like NSYNC, the Spice Girls, you know, not equating that with Bad Boy, but you did have, I think, Making the Bands. Like it was all definitely, now we're aware that there is commercial music made for that specifics, and these dudes are like, we're not doing that. This is what we're gonna do. This is what we're about, and that's a huge. The intro and the first 3 songs, flawless in my opinion. I don't think you could ask for, especially in a album where it's like they are black. Like this is something special. This could be a one of one. Great introduction to exactly what is about to go down.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they take you on that trip, which is very nostalgic. I know they have like BDP like references and riffs and whatever, but then they have like B-boys in the park and all that stuff. And it becomes quite joyous. It's quite joyous. And in my head, I was always like, I love Respiration so much that I always wanted it higher. But now listening back to it, I can see exactly why they put it lower in the sequencing. That for me, that whole track, the video, everything about that, I remember that elevating itself into like a 5 mic moment for me, a perfect time for me, because I just watched, I don't know if you watched La Haine, like in France, this French film, black and white. The video reminded me of La Haine. They had like, they looked fucking cool. Like they looked cold in that video, but cool. And it's like the Respiration video, that was one of the moments where I was like, this was my and I think, to be fair, you said there about iconography with Rawkus, that razor was like an icon. It's like woo. People get tattooed. I have more Rawkus t-shirts than any other company. I have so many Rawkus t-shirts. It's because you wanted and yearned to be part of a club and kind of brand yourself with it. And Respiration, as an extension of that, I almost like used to hold it up like a flag. Like if, you know, people are arguing, I'd just be like, well, no, Respiration. Like listen to what Mos Def, Talib Kweli and Common are saying on there. And I can't even, for this podcast, break it down, but my 5 up moment, hottest bars, whatever you want to call it, is that you're not going to fuck with Mos on them first few bars, where he's like, the new moon rode high, the crown of the metropolis, shine like who on top of this, and then everyone arguing and bustling. That, I'd never heard that. That is a poetry, like you're elevating yourself into like a form of art that maybe I hadn't considered hip hop in. And I think that was a moment where I was like, no, these guys are artists, man. Like, and maybe everyone's been artists, but at that time, that really hit home for me. So yeah, that was that was like perfect rap. Do you know what I mean?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I was going to say Respiration first too, but that was when I like re-listened. Like, I think Respiration is just, everyone loves that song. So I want to talk about something different, but if I did talk about Restoration, which I'm really glad you did, because that needs the props.
Yeah.
Common, there's one line that Common says where he's like, I asked my guy how traveling the world sounds. I find it hard to imagine he hadn't been past downtown. And that line struck with me. I remember when I was teaching 5th grade, I taught in this neighborhood, Inglewood, which is just west of Hyde Park. And I took my students, they were 5th graders. I took them on a field trip to DePaul University, which is it's a college on the north side of Chicago. And when we did get Lakeshore Drive is this main highway on the east. When we got past downtown, so downtown's in the middle of the city, they were just like, whoa. And it just struck me how real that line was. Like a lot of kids just don't leave their neighborhoods and like hadn't been past downtown. So Respiration's sick. Have you heard the Respiration remix where it's Black Thought? And
I have, but I haven't heard it recently. Is it worth jumping in?
Dude, I used to start so many of my DJ sets with that song. It's just a great record. And Talib has another really dope quote. There is new verses, new everything, and the chorus is the same.
Yeah. I do remember that. I need to listen back because I haven't heard it. But yeah, man, that's amazing. But again, as a DJ, you slipping in any Rawkus, anything like that, I think I would have just been like, "Who is this guy?" Yes, I need to follow. Like I didn't. You hear it, but in certain places, I would never really hear it generally. But yeah, no, that is amazing, bro. I was actually going to say then. You know what's cool? Again, like you said, there's chapters to this album. It kind of flows really nicely. There's that moment where little hidden gem on the album, Yo Yeah, for me, J Rule's on that production. It's like a portal to like a poetry cafe in New York. Like they just put you in there. It transitions into Respiration, and that, you know what else I loved? Style Wars, bro. Like when they bring that crime in the city, and I watched Star Wars again last year, and it's just like an impeccable document. If no one's watched that, please, listeners, viewers, go watch Star Wars. It's just a brilliant documentation. Absolutely. Yeah
And that's the brilliance of this whole album, and where I think partly why I continue just then and still now love hip-hop so much is like such a genre where you can dig in, and a whole part of the tradition is like sharing the history. So these dudes made this album, and the name dropping that they do, the Star Wars clips, that whole song where they're just like calling people out and all that. Wait, no, I'm thinking now B-Boys. Yo Yeah is home, right?
Mm-hmm.
They ended where he's like, as we sat at the traffic light, that's Yo Yeah, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, that's a gem in the poetry. Then you had B-Boys Will Be Boys. I think that's the name of it.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, who's in the house tonight? That's what I was talking about earlier. And they're out there, their style throughout the project. I was talking to Chuck D a while ago.
Yeah.
And for a different piece I was doing, and somehow it got to Beastie Boys got brought up in there, or maybe I was just talking to him after the interview about Beastie Boys, but he was saying how like the Beastie Boys have always been true to that style of rap where they trade off, and like it's not a style anymore that's in vogue. Even when their last album came out, it was definitely like a very dated thing, but he's like, they always just stayed true to that. And I think on Black Star, they have elements of that as well. The trading of bars, like this is a two-man group. It's not just some groups would be like, here's this guy's verse, then this person will go, and there's no trading. And so I like how this album had a mix of, they had their own verses, they had their own songs, but then they also did the performance, that part of hip hop too, where it was back and forth. That's like, goes back to what you're saying, the whole overall mission and statement of this album is not just what they're saying, it's how they said it, it's the skits they've used, the references they make is very on point all around. There's no real inconsistencies, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And that being true to who you are, I remember that for Talib, when he came, I suppose it's a near perfection moment in my history, my own personal history, was he was in a club called Subterranea here promoting that album. Have you been Subterranea? Wow. It's
not in no, I haven't been to that.
Oh, okay.
There is one in Chicago too, but no, keep going.
Oh, right, okay, wicked. And he was just doing his thing, killing it, and halfway through he just started to get a vibe for who the audience were. We're all backpackers, man. And he was like, oh, do you guys like Mos Def? Yeah. Do you guys like Bahamadir? Do you guys like Pheromont? Yeah. And then he said, what do you guys think to Jay-Z? And everyone, just a massive raucous of boos, just boo. And Talib, being Talib at that time, just sort of laughed on the mic and was like, you guys don't know, Jay-Z will rhyme circles around you motherfuckers. And that's the first time in my conditioned, blinkered backpacker way I'd heard someone validate Jigga and my love for Jigga. And I was like, oh, wow, like, people hopefully go back now after this gig and listen to Jay-Z and Talib saying this. And you know what's really weird when you have that moment and you see these guys now, like their legacies, their catalogs, who they actually are. I do find it a little bit problematic to talk about Talib with everything that's going on with him, with these arguments going on. But his kind of, I don't even know what to call it, a beef. I don't want to reduce it to beef, but he has these interactions with No Name. And I'm like, No Name is like almost like a child of this era of knowledge of self and, you know, being beautiful, black is beautiful, all that stuff. And it's just really odd to me that they're fighting. And I'm like, yeah, that's really, I would never have thought that. And it's just Talib thinking he's being true to who he is, No Name being true to who she is. And it's just a weird, I had to bring it up in this episode because it's just weird to talk about Talib and not address that issue that's going on around, because it's just strange for me. It's just a bit weird, but yeah.
It's odd. I mean, it's definitely, I mean, even before that, he was just seeing him on Twitter telling everyone to fuck off. A lot of it was against racists, which is awesome. You should tell those people, but it definitely, him on Twitter and some of that is not, you know, not the best. And like, you know, I think people have various interactions with artists, or I just have been in a lot of situations where like, either like I'm at a party that Kweli's supposed to perform at, or he people have booked him, and he just, man, I think he's just an interesting dude, and man, some of that behavior I definitely don't condone.
It's just
I don't know what else to say about it. It's just like there's an evidence line where he's like, I don't want to see my heroes slinging verses on their Twitter. It's like the same. It's just kind of the same thing. Like, man. I mean, we could go down a list too of artists that get in these petty fights in public now, and it's just like, man, this sucks. Like, why? Yeah, what are you doing? Like, why?
But it's a weird throwback from a generation where your voice was so powerful. Like, we talk about hidden gems and stuff, and I was listening back to the Hip Hop for Respect and the Amadou Diallo stuff and all that, and that was, your voice was so powerful. And if you, I mean, I don't know how much real change came from it, but I know from across the ocean to where I was in my little bedroom, I knew the name Amadou Diallo, and I knew all these things, these injustices that were happening. And it's like your voice is so strong, and now you have these amplifiers to be able to amplify that voice. It's just really interesting that these voices all get mixed up, and there's like these like issues that are happening. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot there, by the way, bro. I just like thought, you know, it was something on my mind where I was like, like it's interesting to listen to this album with that context, because it's like, like he doesn't say, like Brown Skin Lady, I'm listening to that track, and I'm like, man, that is just the skit they use, by the way. I'd never watched that film, and I need to watch that film, by the way. I don't know what it's called. But you know the skit where he's talking about conditioning and amazing.
I know, around this time, like I was in a lot of like activists. I was in this thing called Hip Hop Congress, which was a thing across the country, little chapters, but like it was all about activism, and there was a lot of hip hop activism going on in different conventions I'll go to, and there was a big thing in Chicago, and I was in a lot of those spaces, and like you're right, man. Talib Kweli was definitely what a lot of those people were listening to, but then he would also show up and be there as well. I don't think that he just talked about it, but it's just like weird. Yeah, it's weird to see this play out, and even before where he's like bullied this girl, got bumped off Twitter. But it's also odd to see he just put out a book. He has his own podcast that's co-hosted with a woman. Like, I don't know what to make of any of that. I think that this woman he's beefing with is definitely, that's been taken way too far. He should have chilled out on that. Like, why even do that? She hit some kind of nerve.
We have some of the categories though, and we've talked about the album, how amazing it is. I did have like name the skips, and I was wondering if there were any tracks now that you do actually just skip when you're listening to it.
For sure. I think the song I usually skip is Children's Story.
Same.
You know, I just thought that the rest of the songs make all the points that he makes in that one, but it doesn't, it's not, it's just so spelled out. It just
Yeah.
felt the most forced, but it might not have been for Mos Def. It might have been the most natural thing for him to make. I just mean in the whole sequence of this album, that's the one it just like doesn't really fit. The vibe is off. And it's just like we get it. Like the whole rest of the project is really saying these things in better ways than that one. So that's the one I would skip.
Okay. And then the two other categories I had, if you had to, gun to your head, put a non-90s rapper on here, who would it be and why?
Yeah, good question. There's only one, if I'm wrong. I mean, the last song is a posse cut. I don't necessarily count that as much, but the other real guest rapper is Common on this project. So it's hard to pick one. Some I came up with that I think, well, I guess I would love to hear Kanye on this album, simply because he was the direct descendant, and so much of when Kanye came out was like him fucking with the Rawkus dudes.
Yeah.
Like he has whether you call him Kweli or Kweli, I put him on tracks with Freeway.
Yeah.
No, I put him on tracks with Jay-Z. I don't know what he said. I'm fucking that lyric up. But he then had Mos Def and Freeway on a song. And I think he just loved these dudes so much. Can you imagine what like young Kanye is doing on this album if given the chance? That would have been insane to me. Other people, I think Lupe would sound cool. Rock Marciano. I love maybe Evidence could have fucked with this. Mac Miller. Yeah. But Jay Electronica, I don't know if he was rapping in the 90s. He definitely is old. I think he's old enough to have been. Yeah. But I go with Kanye as my number one. I would love to hear Kanye on that. Young Kanye. Not now. Not remix something today and drop it.
Yeah.
College dropout Kanye.
I have exactly the same note, my friend, which is just young Kanye. Like, there was that, absolute, the lineage, he was supposed to be a Rawkus, all of that, absolutely, yeah, I'm right there with you. And the last one, which is a little bit tenuous, but we end up talking about a lot of the 90s, like, artists, and we end up talking about features, loads. I don't know how we landed on this feature Trinity, which was like, these three ended up being talked about loads, and I was like, could we fit one of these on there? And it was Method Man, Busta, or Nas. And I was wondering if you had one, and on what track, if you had to feature one of those.
Oh, Busta. Who'd you say? Busta, Nas,
or Method
who was the
Man?
first? Method Man.
His features were unreal on them Woo projects.
You know what? I think Busta Rhymes might be the most natural, just from how close he was in proximity to all this. But I probably would go with Nas. I don't know how anyone, like, hearing Nas on these songs.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine Nas had a Respiration verse?
That's exactly what I have. We are one. Yeah. That's exactly it. They talk about the city. They're talking about everything Nas would nail on that. Yeah. Oh, absolutely brilliant. Man, thank you, man. Thank you for basically... Go on.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go.
I wanted to hit one last thing. I didn't get to see... I didn't get to say the hidden gem, but I just want to throw this out there because it fits what you said about... you said something like with where you like most more than Talib Kweli is the cramming so many words. And I think this hidden gem, people may not think about it. I didn't really think about it in a long time. On Hater Players, Talib Kweli is viciously attacking other rappers, comes right out. It's a small wonder like Vicky, why you suck like hickeys. I get it. Small wonder, great 90s TV, 80s TV show. But Mos Def's verse starts out, I'm just pulling up the lyrics so I don't get it wrong. Yeah. The whole first part of it is him. This verse is him breaking down how he's Mos Def. He talks about his mind. He like describes this forest with people ciphering. Yeah. And then just is like, at the end of it, people ask Mos how you get so. It's like he just explained how he's so dope through his brain being a forest, presence of hilltops littered with treetops. If you eavesdrop and hear the incline of sunshine, 9 stones in orbit, refuse to forfeit, they all form a cipher and came to absorb it. And then he talks about fucking going and stepping in the cypher. My method isn't orthodox, but of course it rocks.
Yeah.
Serious synopsis will drop kick. My topics run the gauntlet and galvanize the audience. I must represent. I don't come off with no corniness. Like
corniness. Oh, man.
Crazy.
Do you remember that video? I mean, you must. It goes viral every year or so of him just freestyling in the park.
It's in the I don't know if you saw the documentary. It's called Freestyle. It came out early 2000s.
Right, I think I remember this. Yeah,
all about freestyling and shit. I was just thinking about that because I'm doing a story on MC Juice from Chicago.
Okay,
like crazy freestyler.
That's a seamless segue then, my friends, into your work, because you're on, and I was like, I mean, yes, it's been amazing to talk about this album, but also just to shine a little bit of a light on yourself, Close Sessions, Ruby Hornet, all that. Like, I saw you dropped a few things on LL recently.
Yeah.
So what's in the works? What have you been doing? Where can we find your work?
Dope. Yeah, man. So I started a blog, Ruby Hornet, way back, like I think 2007, 8, during the blog era. That transformed because I was DJing. I had this party. I'll bring blog era rappers to Chicago for the first time. They would just rap next to me in the DJ booth. People like Currency, Action Bronson, Danny Brown, Freddie Gibbs. And then I'd taken my Metadu to the studio. So I would just be recording these songs. That's how Closed Sessions came to be. We'd shoot documentaries, air those. MTV2, Sucker Free would air the documentaries. But lately, I've been writing for LL Cool J's RockTheBells.com on various, I just pitch artists that I'd write about for free and have a deep career. So I did Alchemist, Fat Joe, Raekwon, and just recently DJ Muggs, which I looked at. That's when I started really going deep into the Crate 808 archive. With the DJ Muggs interview. And you can read my work there. Closed Sessions as our label. We put out all those songs with those artists I mentioned before, but just a litany of artists back from the blog days till now. I think some of our biggest releases that you might know or people might know, Jamila Woods, who put out her first project, Heaven, and the last couple with Jaguar. Quaku Collins, we worked with Alex Wiley, so like the Bronsons and Gibbs, Raekwon, and Vic Mensa, all that stuff. We just put out a rapper. I think he's going to be on your podcast, Kip Stone.
Kip Stone, yes.
And this duo, Mother Nature. So, man, really excited. That was a very bad introduction of myself. Closed Sessions at Closed Sessions. DJ _RTC on my own Twitter. But
There we go, man. Kip Stone, by the way, that guy is the truth. I actually enjoyed his first project, or last project came out, and that's why I was like, oh, and this is all just aligned nicely, because then yourself, you were like part of it. I was interesting. So I'm loving everything you guys are doing. And I think documentation of the culture, obviously, in these little worlds that I may never be able to visit, but we had Fake Shore Drive on and people like that. We've had people on where we're like, these little worlds that live outside of where we are in the UK. It's just a great thing to see that people like yourself are out there and just carrying that flag, bro. So big up, much props on that.
That's awesome, man. Thank you. I'm just glad. I'm a fan of the podcast and was really looking forward to this, man. I'm just excited to be on here. I love your interview style. You're passionate. It's, you're really in it, man. So I appreciate and a fan and really respect what you do. And had a blast talking about this album, which I could continue talking about for days. My wife will definitely not want to hear that. But thank you for giving me the outlet to vent on my love of the Black Star.
Man. Oh, it's been beautiful. It's been a great thing. And again, doors are open, bro, for any other time you want to come on. It's been just, I've loved it, man. It's been great. And people go check out all of Alexander's work and check this album out. Before we go, though, I have to ask you, I ask everyone, what is the last great piece of music that you heard? Could be old, could be new. Can't really be Black Stars. We've talked about them, but...
Okay. I was on the ride up here. I was telling you about my son's lullaby playlist, and the song Blowing in the Wind by Bob Dylan is on that playlist. And I think I dismissed that as a kid just because it was so ubiquitous. But listening to the words and the lyrics, it's an incredible song. I mean, the writing is so good. Like it's so simple but profound, and you could listen to it and it could be like it was written today. A lot of the problems he's talking about are still going on, and I think that was just like really great. And also on this playlist is Imagine, which is another song that I never really dug deep into.
Yeah,
but that's incredible, and also same could be put out today and be an extremely relevant record. So I'll say those two, I guess.
Okay, love that. A bit of Bob Dylan on the pod. I'm always here for that. I've got a Bob Dylan poster just there, actually. So, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I can't see it. The camera won't show it. But, yeah, it's just there. But I was going to say, here's one then, before we go then. Is Black Sunday worth trading for a Bob Dylan record when you're 14 with your brother? Your brother's got Bob Dylan, you've got Black Sunday. Are you trading it?
I was not trading that Black Sunday for anything, man.
Right answer. That's
in my story they just put out about Muggs, I talk about discovering Cypress Hill, and like I played that was the CDs in my backpack every day going to high school. My freshman year was like Temples of Boom into Black Sunday. I kind of discovered them backwards, but yeah, no, Black Sunday never would be. That's an untradeable piece right there.
Do you like the first one as well? The self-titled?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's groundbreaking production right there. That's where Muggs like, Jesus Christ.
Do you know what? We may have stumbled onto something here. We do our best 3 album runs, and the Patreon's coming up this year. And I top of my list is Cypress Hill, and I was just waiting for a guest to come on where this fit in. Man, if you're around, that 3 album run needs to be talked about. So
Let me know.
Yeah,
I think when I even first really saw you doing it the first time, I was tweeting at you guys like, "How come no one is saying Cypress Hill?"
I think you did actually. I think you did.
That's an incredible. Yeah, let me know when it is. I'm here to wave the 3 album Cypress Hill flag for sure.
Yes, wicked. Love that. What a way to end it. But yeah, man, much love. All the love to Chicago, and yeah, just enjoy yourself, mate. And yeah, we'll catch you soon. Keep smashing it, bro.
All right, man. Peace.
Wicked.
Take care.
Peace.
All right, man.